In this video, we will discuss about 10 reasons why virtual reality technologies will gain immense popularity in the next 2 to 3 years. The launch of the Oculus Quest 2, participation in the development of VR by companies like Apple and Facebook, the huge growth of VR players on Steam, new games, and the growth of the VR market to $100 billion in the coming years. All of this propels the VR market to incredible speeds. Let's take a look at all the reasons why the VR market is exploding right now. Let's start. The release of Oculus Quest 2 is one of the most significant events in the world of VR. An event that can completely change the whole world looks at virtual reality has occurred. It's been 6 months since the release of Oculus Quest 2. It might seem like a long period of time, but if you look at the whole history of VR, then this is a very small period. But in those 6 months, more Quest 2 helmets were sold than the first version of the Quest in a year and a half. The volume even exceeded the sales of the entire Oculus Rift series in 3 years. This is a big increase in sales. Here's a quote from Andrew Bosworth, president of augmented and virtual reality at Facebook. "Well, if you look a little closely, I think it's starting to happen right now. The fact that Oculus Quest 2 in just a few months on the market has outsold not just its predecessor, but all of its predecessors combined, is a tremendous indicator that we are now at that point where we've broken through from the early adopter crowd to an increasingly mainstream crowd. With Quest 2, virtual reality has ceased to be a narrow topic for a small group of techies and has become mainstream. Of course, the sales volumes are not as big as, for example, the PlayStation 4. But if you take the sales of virtual reality headsets, this is an explosive growth. If you look at Steam statistics, the predominant helmet on the top list is Oculus Quest 2. 25% of Steam VR users have used this particular helmet. The success of Quest 2 is quite justified. A relatively low price compared to all other helmets, quite productive hardware, the ability to connect to powerful games on the computer, lightness, and mobility. All of this played a big role in its success, as well as in promoting the virtual reality market. The planned release of the Oculus Quest 3 and Quest 4. Certainly, there are still many rumors about the release of the third version of Quest 3, but Facebook has already planned the release and it is developing new products. It's been quite a while since the release of Quest 2, and it is unlikely that Quest 3 will be released in end of 2021. In the interview, Mark Zuckerberg said that the Quest 3 is currently in development and the company is in the early stages of work on the Oculus Quest 4. Because of how hardware gets developed, you kind of need to know what your next 3 products are going to look like all at the same time. It's not like software where we're changing it every couple of weeks. We have product teams spun up now, working on the next few generations of virtual reality, and what Quest 3 and 4 are going to look like." The end of the quote. The new versions are expected to have improved battery life, more powerful processor, resolution, and refresh rates. The shape, weight, arrangement of elements will also be changed, as well as new features will be added. Reduction of motion sickness and north here in the device, an expanded application store and enhanced social interaction. New product launches will further expand the virtual reality market. Increase in the number of users and applications for VR. Due to the fact that virtual reality helmets are becoming more and more accessible to the general public, more and more people buy them, and the number of users of the virtual environment itself is growing. As users grow, so does the demand for apps. In 2019, the number of VR users was 43 million. In 2020, the number has grown to 52 million, and continues to grow. In 2021, there are already about 57 million. This number is expected to increase to 60.8 million in 2022. The number of VR games and apps on Steam, and the Oculus Store has also increased. Of course, there are not so many games and applications of the highest quality, but the growth of good games is noticeable. For example, the Rec Room app is now one of the most popular social apps across all VR platforms. Rec Room started out as a small Steam VR app with a few hundred players. In 2020, Rec Room increased its revenue by 500% due to in-game sales. And now they are about 15 million users in the application. During the pandemic, the number of users has grown dramatically, and the application is planning an IPO to receive investments. The game is currently valued at $1.25 billion. The app is supported on PS, Xbox, Oculus, and Steam platforms. A large increase in activity in such applications as well as an increase in the number of applications, is a step towards increasing the market share of virtual reality. New VR games from Facebook. Facebook plans to release new VR games that will amaze the player. Facebook's Mike Doran says the company is building partnerships with VR content companies, and will surprise people in the coming years. Doran works as director of publishing in Oculus Studio, and fuels the interest of all VR fans on his blog reflecting on the past 5 years of the Facebook VR programs and future Facebook developments. Quoting him, "I am in a unique position to work not only on some of the best games in the world, but also on a platform that is constantly pushing the boundaries," Doran said about the future. "The things that will happen in the next 3, 5, 7 years are amazing, and I would like to talk to you about them right now. And I would like to tell you about all the great partners that we will be working with that will amaze people, but for now it has been kept under wraps." Given the success of Quest 2, many of the developers and publishers may be joining Facebook. For example, Ubisoft is developing Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell for VR. After the success of Half-Life Alyx, many companies started thinking about developing full-fledged VR games which will also have a very good impact on market growth. Apple plans to release its glasses augmented reality. Apple has set the dates for WWDC 2021, it is June 7th. The Apple company decided to hold its traditional developer event on its usual dates. It, like last time, will be held online. The logo of event this time turned out to be a bit unusual. The Verge suggested that the character in glasses, in which icons are visible or their reflection, hint at the long-promised or glasses or a VR headset. Nevertheless, Bloomberg claims that the announcement will not happen at the time of this conference but later. According to journalists Mark Gurman, Apple's mixed reality helmets will be announced in the next few months after WWDC around the middle of the year. The announcement of such a device should be grandiose, and the new device will be tested by journalists, which is impossible to do at an online event. The device itself is likely to go on sale no earlier than 2022. Apple is putting VR technology into perspective and is in no rush to launch its headset. According to rumors, Apple has a secret research unit that has hundreds of employees working on AR and VR technologies, and exploring ways to use new technologies in their devices. Over the past few years, Apple has acquired several small VR companies, thus adding to the ranks of engineers and continuing to work on projects. Even industry giants, like Apple, are interested in virtual reality technology, which also has a positive effect on the VR market. If the company launches a headset, there will be another jump in sales and the number of virtual reality users will grow significantly. New VR accessories. A large number of VR accessories are being developed and marketed. These are all kinds of motion trackers, special gloves and boots, vests, and suits for the whole body for tactile sensations, special treadmills for moving in VR, and much more. Thunder Labs launched a fundraising campaign on the Tundra Tracker on Kickstarter, and in the first 3 hours the requested amount of $250,000 was raised, and the amount continues to grow, reaching the $1 million mark. The company collects money for the mass production of an analog of the tracker from HTC. The device connects wirelessly to your VR headset and tracks every movement of your body and accurately tracks your hand and finger movements. The device itself is not new, but the fact that it was able to raise funds for development so quickly, and in such quantities, suggests that the demand for virtual reality accessories is quite high. The Chinese company, Cat VR, has developed the Catwalk C propellers. You can walk and run in any direction in VR using only your feet. The device supports different types of movement: running, steps, side steps, squats. The device helps you immerse yourself in virtual reality, keep your body in shape and get rid of the effect of motion sickness and nausea when your body is standing and your brain thinks it is moving. More and more such devices appear every year. Gloves and body vests with tactile feedback, when you can feel the touch and thrusts. With all of these devices, your VR experience will be like sci-fi movies with full immersion in virtual reality. The abundance of devices for VR, and the constant release of new ones, speaks of the growing demand for such gadgets as well as the growing capabilities of VR technology itself. Increased use of VR technology due to lockdowns. 2020 has shown us how much we need online technology for normal work and life. Many people began to actively use the online environment for their work and communication. Lockdown has not spared virtual reality technology either. In VR games and applications, more users who just talked and played together. But at the same time, the use of applications for business meetings and discussions has grown. You can meet with your colleagues in the virtual office and discuss business issues. The social application Rec Room began to be actively used precisely during the lockdown in 2020, which the developers and founders of the company told about it themselves. The growth in the number of active users and the company's revenues grew by 500%. In the future, with the improvement of the VR technology, the organization of business meetings will increasingly move to a virtual environment. The costs for such a meeting are minimal, physical contact is minimal. Maximum safety and availability from anywhere in the world. VR support in game engines. Porting games and adding VR support to many popular game engines. Many classic games that were made, available on computers via mods, are ported to VR by amateurs and fans of technology. For example, games like Doom 3, Quake, Half-Life, Left 4 Dead, Outlast, and many other classic games. You can experience the new thrill of the game by playing it in VR. New VR-enabled games are also being developed. For example, Ubisoft is developing Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell. When the number of VR users exceeds the critical mass, then all the upcoming games will be VR-enabled, because this is a huge profit for the company. Well-known game engines, such as Unreal Engine and Unity, come with built-in support for developing VR games, and any indie developer or company who wants to write and release their game, which also has a positive effect on the VR market. Ubisoft has added VR support to its internal Snowdrop 3D engine. Many less-known game engines also claimed that newer versions of the engine will lead VR tools. All of these game engine modifications and game porting are increasing the global VR market share and driving interest in virtual reality. Development of a new version of PlayStation VR on PS5. Sony is also keeping up with the improvement of the VR technology in its consoles. New PS5 helmets improve performance, improved trackers and powerful OLED display, improved audio system, and next-generation controllers. The fact that one of the top consoles is engaged in the development of VR also has a positive effect on the VR technology market, and if the headsets and accessories for VR are constantly improved in new versions of PlayStation, this will definitely arise great interest among gamers and increase the demand for this technology. Forecasts have increased the market share of virtual reality to $100 billion. The leaders of the global virtual reality market are such companies as SenseX, Qualcomm, Facebook, Sony, Google, Microsoft, and Samsung. According to the latest Market Research Future report, the global virtual reality market could grow to $101.2 billion by 2027. Average annual growth rate will be increased to 37.4% over the forecast period 2017 to 2027. Use of VR in education, healthcare, and gaming. According to experts, the widespread adoption of VR in the education, healthcare, and gaming sectors will increase demand in the global market in the coming years. The huge need for simulation tools to promote interactive learning and increased learning rates among students is a new opportunity for gamers. In healthcare, virtual reality can help surgeons and doctors perform complex surgeries and improve patient outcomes. The integration of 5G and advances in virtual reality can drive market growth. Virtual reality is likely to revolutionize the online environment in the coming years. There are a lot of facts that indicate a huge increase in interest in this technology, and perhaps the very interaction with the internet will ultimately take place in a virtual environment, and work through ordinary monitors will become a relic of the past, such as lamp and black and white TVs. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.